Thank you. I would like to begin with a report that Amnesty International gave after their encounter with the Filimbi youth in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And it captures really what a lot of Africans, especially Nigerians, will think when somebody mentions social movement. This is what they say: we are not plotters or terrorists. We are a new generation of committed young Africans. We who hold the destiny of the continent in our hands must not be deprived of our freedom. We are a new civic movement that has just emerged in Africa. We will not be intimidated by long detentions, harassment, and repression. I think that really speaks volume of what I would like to say in the light of Ken Saro-Wiwa and the Niger Delta youth, not just Niger Delta youth, but the whole of the youth of Nigeria, because as every one of you would know already, Nigeria is a big, big country with big problems. So Ken Saro-Wiwa is one example that we can always use in every aspect to really educate ourselves. So this quote that I have just read out is a direct reference to a man who was concerned with bringing justice to his wretched community. The above powerful message from the Fimbili youth reminds us of the Ken Saro-Wiwa's message, from one of his last letters in detention. He said, "There is no doubt that my idea will succeed in time. I have used my talents as a writer to enable the Ogoni people to confront their tormentors. It is of great importance, therefore, to note that Ken was a competent leader with a vision for a united, just, and peaceful Nigeria. He had to make a determined choice between the battle for liberation and dictatorial rule. His great dream met with tragic death, however, an absurd onslaught from the military dictatorship led by Abacha is a common information that everyone at all has. So to establish the context in which we can fully understand the message of Ken Saro-Wiwa, it is quite necessary to briefly recount the problem of Nigeria. I'm not going to keep you here because it's big. So just to have a snapshot of what the problem of Nigeria is, so that we can see the light of what I'm saying. Acosta Alberto says, he talks about the paradox of plenty. If you have plenty, then you have plenty problem. I think that's just the summary of Nigeria's problem. We have oil, and oil is the major income of Nigeria, and oil has ever been, since after 1960, the problem of Nigeria. So one cannot eloquently talk about the topic of politics and oil in Nigeria without making reference to the British hegemony. However, I'm not going to talk about that literature now, but it's just for us to know that Nigeria is or was under British colonial rule, and the British colonial activities in Nigeria is still affecting whatever that we do in the country. So we must, however, agree to the fact that the question of who owns the Nigerian oil is not a constitutional one, but political. That has to do with the power in the plural or polyglot society of Nigeria. And what this is saying is, Nigeria has over 250 ethnic groups. And when you listen to the three major ethnic groups in Nigeria speak, the Hausa, the Igbo, and the Yorubas, most of the times you think that we only have three ethnic groups. Completely, the politics of Nigeria ignores the rest of the ethnic groups, and these three have really been the major problem of Nigeria, because they have been the ones who have been managing the Nigerian state. And interestingly, one of the nationalist movement, Azikiwe, you know, when you are talking about the transition, that what happened when the British were leaving Nigeria, they literally handed over power to these three ethnic groups, because Nigeria was divided into three regions, the north, the east, and the south, and it represents up till now the three ethnic groups that I talk about. Azikiwe Nandi is from the southeast part of Nigeria, and when the British were ruling Nigeria, he criticized the British the British Mineral Ordinance. Whatever mineral resources that was found in Nigeria belonged to the Queen. That was her property. And then that was exactly what was handed over to the three major ethnic groups in Nigeria. They criticized that when the British were ruling, but then up till now, they stand on the same ordinance to rule the country. And it has ever been, and up till now, been the major issue as far as Nigeria is concerned. The major problem with Nigeria since after independence is that the ruling elites are blindly and unrelentingly pursuing a neoliberal path that has kept the rest of the ethnic groups from within the 6 geopolitical zones. We have 6 of the geopolitical zones in Nigeria to make it easy for them to rule the country. We have the central, north central, we have northeast, we have northwest, we have southeast, south, and southwest. These are the 6 geopolitical zones. This came up because they thought that, to be fair to everybody in the country, we have to create this in order for everybody, so that all Nigerians will benefit from whatever resources that the country produce. But I don't think that is really the issue. Chinua Achebe, one of the Nigerian authors, said in one of his books, the problem with, or the trouble with Nigeria is leadership. It has ever been that way. And I think that is really what triggered Ken Saro-Wiwa to begin his own movement. So the cruise of this paper is therefore to acknowledge a phenomenal man of history, Ken Saro-Wiwa, who fought against tyranny in a non-violent but persuasive way. Anyone familiar with his outstanding scholarship would acknowledge his prowess as regards social movement. As a distinguished intellectual, he was at the forefront of the fight against oppression, which led to his enduring legacy that remains one of the major contributions to the Nigerian struggle against forces of oppression. His immediate agenda was to save his ancestral home, the Ogoni land, from the exploit of the Nigerian state and the Shell Oil Company. He came up with a Bill of Rights, and that Bill of Rights did not only make reference to the pre-colonial history, but pointed to the huge revenue contributions Ogoni Oil had made to the Nigerian state, for which the Ogoni received nothing in return. Reacting to the provocative circumstances which his people lived, Ken Saro-Wiwa founded the Mossop movement for the survival of the Ogoni people in 1990, that's Movement for the Survival of the Ogoni People in 1990, as a non-violent campaign to promote democratic awareness, to protect the environment of the Ogoni people, to seek social, economic, and physical development for the region, to protect the cultural rights and practices of the Ogoni people, seek appropriate rights of self-determination for the Ogoni people. Many prominent scholars so far around the world have made laudable efforts with regard to analyzing the situation in the Niger Delta and proffering solutions to the myriad problem facing the people and the region. However, it is tragic that the Niger Delta area has come to be recognized in recent time as an enclave of social conflict. The political, economic, and social dynamics of the region can only be understood in the context of the ongoing underdevelopment, which has oil exploitation and exploration as its principal signpost. Saro-Wiwa located himself at the whirlwind of multiple historical processes and interests. From the point of view of the state, his effect of mobilizing a hitherto quiescent minority around oil and environmental rights was a dangerous signal of a new praxis for other disposed minority, both in the oil-producing regions and in Nigeria, both in the oil-producing regions and in Nigeria more generally. And at the local level, he clashed with traditional and more conservative authorities who could not fully grasp the significance of the revolutionary processes that were being unleashed. The unexpected brutal killing of Ken and the other Ogoni aides is without doubt frightening prospect. But in spite of that, the life-giving reality of Ken is recognized both on local and global stage. His fundamental and strategic thinking through nonviolent struggle can now be seen as an intentional technique for promoting political reform to achieving social change without bloodshed. In emphasizing the importance of vision-driven nonviolent action, it is inevitable that the strong motivation seen at the final moment of Ken Saro-Wiwa remains a great legacy for the Nigerian Niger Delta youth. His nonviolent agitation had a universal appeal as against all kinds of insurgent groups escalating. It suffices therefore to say that it is important not only to have a vision, but to establish objectives that will identify the vision tomorrow. And one thing I would like, this is the last thing I'm going to say about Ken Saro-Wiwa, that he has left for the country, which really resonates with everybody until now. If you look at the bill of the Ogoni Bill of Rights, what he asked or was demanding from the Nigerian government was true federalism. That was what he really was asking for. Nigerians will talk about true federalism, fiscal federalism. That is really what is really making people get involved with the Nigerian politics now. And I think it springs from what we have seen in Ken Saro-Wiwa's life. He really moved the Nigerian state. Something I keep saying to people I have never seen so far in any Nigerian. We can easily give up on such, but I can't just imagine he was a Nigerian. When I read about him in books, what he has written, I really see a type of Nigerian. And I think he has left something very great for the country. We are still talking about it now, in action. I remember I read somewhere Azikiwe talked about, Awolowo, sorry, talked about if you want to achieve something, especially in the context of Nigeria, he said this immediately after Biafra, you have to go with realism. He was real. There was no pretense in whatever he did, and that has really resonates with a lot of Nigerian youth now who seek for justice from the government. We are all suffering from the state, and we are really using Ken. Ken has left us with a legacy, and I think we ought to continue to work on his legacy to see that justice is done to every single Nigerian in the Nigerian state. Thank you.
Thank you.